Hi guys, BellaDonna Black here, and here are 5 true creepy Craigslist stories. So, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. Number 1. Anthony Guerrero is living proof that not every Craigslist crime has to be the kind of thing you'll shield your eyes from while watching a movie. He was a former high school football star who played a little in college, but not little enough to avoid an injury that saddled him with a lifelong painkiller addiction. Things spiraled out of control to the point that he turned to crime for money, and that's when shit got interesting. Rather than pull the usual junkie maneuver and rob a liquor store on a whim, he settled into 8 months of Hollywood action movie worthy planning and came up with a scheme to rob an armoured truck. So, not even a starter gas station or anything. One of the key components of his heist involved posting a Craigslist ad for 10-day labourers, with the odd request that they all show up dressed the exact same way. Why? Because on that day, he would show up dressed in a similar get-up, except he was a tearaway Velcro version, like those worn-off pants baseball players wear when they're on the bench. As his colour-coordinated workforce stood around, confused and waiting to labour, the man who requested their presence blasted an armoured truck driver in the face with pepper spray, grabbed 2 bags of cash and ran off into the sunset, leaving nothing but confusion and a bunch of dudes who matched the description of the perpetrator in his wake. Well, that's not completely true. He also left behind the particle mask he used to shield himself from the pepper spray, and that, along with the fact that the most honest homeless dude ever spotted him stashing his robbery gear during a test run and gave the police his license plate, eventually led to his capture. Not before he got away in the most insanely adorable way imaginable, though. After fleeing the scene and disposing of his disguise, he jumped onto a waiting inner tube and floated off to freedom. He stashed a little over half of the $400,000 he made off in a friend's safe, then immediately made his way to Vegas with the rest. In my dream version of events, all of that happened on an inner tube also. As mentioned earlier, he did get caught eventually, but he managed to live it up in Vegas for a bit, and, to be completely honest, getting away on the inner tube for a little while is still better than getting away in a more traditional way forever, if for no other reason than having that story to tell for the rest of your life. Oh hey, on that note, he is now out of prison and working as a motivational speaker, presumably giving desperate junkies the courage they need to finally take the plunge and start stealing shit. Number 2. Since we're on the subject of former athletes who've fallen on hard times, let's talk about Lenny Dykstra. A lot of you might remember him as the spunky centre fielder who helped the Philadelphia Phillies reached the World Series for the first time in ages back in 1993. Those were good times. You're probably also familiar with the bad times, which involved Lenny serving a lengthy prison sentence for Grand Theft Auto. But did you know he was also the creepiest professional athlete on Craigslist for a while as well? It's true. In 6 separate incidents reported between 2009 and 2011, he hired women under the pretense of looking for help with various household chores, not letting on until well after they'd arrived that one of those chores would be giving him a goddamn massage. In one instance, he even held a woman at knife point and demanded a rub down. Hey, in the suit, massage my back or I'll stab you. I have so many questions about that last story, and I'm not going to ask a single one of them here. In case you're wondering though, of course he was punished for his acts. He served 90 days in jail and was ordered to stop soliciting women for sex on Craigslist forever. Harsh. Oh, and the charge ran coherent with his Grand Theft Auto charge, so he really didn't do any extra jail time at all. So, let that be a lesson, kids. If you're thinking of committing a crime on Craigslist, do so knowing there's a great chance you'll get away with it, at least a little bit. Number 3. Craigslist gives not a single fuck about the sanctuary of your marriages. For proof of that, look no further than the story of Shea Rama Silveria. She was hired on Craigslist to marry a Portland couple, Kitty and Sean and Sheen, in their backyard because they were renovating their kitchen at the time. They asked all of the invited guests to bring Home Depot gift cards in lieu of any other form of wedding present. You certainly don't want to use a debit card there. At the end of the ceremony, the couple were dismayed to find that, despite inviting 75 to 100 people, their total haul was a measly 3 gift cards. Did the couple just have the cheapest bunch of friends of all time, or was foul play involved? That question got a whole lot easier to answer when Silveria, the woman who had just been paid to marry the couple, was spotted on surveillance footage using one of the stolen cards and arrested shortly thereafter. To make amends, she was ordered to pay $1,500 in restitution and a $300 fine. She was allowed to enter her guilty plea by mail from the comfort of her new home in Washington. She pleaded, happened out of state, so it doesn't count. Further proving that Craigslist is a great place for not-so-clever criminals to pull off inept crimes and face little to no consequences for their actions. If anything, when she did could be best described as high-interest loan. Also, don't rule out the possibility that the couple really did have cheap friends. In that case, even if every single one of them brought a gift card, there's an excellent chance the final tech wasn't going to amount to $1,500. Maybe they came out ahead on the deal, and hooray, everybody wins. I mean, except for the 75 to 100 people who had to go to a backyard wedding in Portland, obviously. Number 4. When you hire a woman on Craigslist to the tune of $150 per hour, do you expect to get sex in return? Internet super cheap Gilbert certainly did when 23-year-old Lenora Ivy Frago arrived at his door. When he found out sex wasn't part of the deal, he became enraged and demanded his money back. Frago refused to issue a refund and ran to a waiting vehicle. Her driver, Christopher Perkins, confronted the angry sex hound when he stormed out. Frago jumped in the car, and when Perkins tried to speed away, Gilbert fired 4 shots into the car. Sadly, the young woman was killed in the attack. Perkins lived, though, and with eyewitness to the crime ready and able to talk, getting Gilbert shipped off to prison would be no problem at all. Except for one thing. The crime happened in Texas. The funny thing about that batshit insane state is that if you see a crime about to happen and it involves your property, you're pretty much in the clear to kill a person to prevent that crime from happening. If you think that's an exaggeration, this case should be proof to the contrary you could ever need, because Gilbert was acquitted on the grounds that he was simply defending his property from being stolen. The law that allowed this to happen gives gun-happy Texans the legal right to protect themselves with deadly force to prevent a whole array of crimes, including arson, burglary, and any crime, however minor, that falls under the insanely huge umbrella of criminal mischief during the nighttime. That can include something as minor as graffiti, a crime that's generally a misdemeanor punishable by a $50 fine. That's provided no one catches you in the act, of course. In that case, you're probably about to die, and Craigslist can make it happen. Don't worry though, the perpetrators do get caught and punished for the crimes. Sometimes. It's just that those are usually saddest stories of all. Case in point. Number 5. So here's the most terrifying shit ever. A 32-year-old Twin Falls, Idaho man hatched a scheme to have strangers show up at his home and help his wife live out her bizarre rape fantasies. You normally wouldn't bat an eyelash at a story like that, coming from Craigslist. Except for the part where, in this case, the wife actually had no clue if any of this was happening. Her husband, potentially the worst person of all time, exchanged emails with men while posing as her and, made rape arrangements. The instructions made it clear that the sexual assaultists for hire should not stop, no matter how much resistance he faced. There was a hitch in the plan though, in that his wife will shoot a motherfucker. Does a creep asking for you by name at the door before saying, "I'm here for you," necessitate gun violence? You bet. Especially when it's followed by that same maniac forcing his way in and chasing you through the house. That happened, but she reached that aforementioned gun. It went off as her attacker was trying to take it from her, at which point he fled, never to be captured. This is where you'd expect the plan would come to a screeching halt. But that's because you're not a fucking menace to common decency, like so many depraved animals on Craigslist. Instead of putting a stop to things, the husband sent someone else to try it again 2 days later. The creepshow was Michael, no relation to P. Diddy Combs. And boy, was he surprised when what he thought was his willing co-conspirator pulled out a gun. Practice makes a lot of things perfect, including the ability to get your weapon fast enough to subdue the criminal trying to have its way with you. Unfortunately, she didn't shoot him right in the goddamn face, but she did call the police, who were presumably like, "Holy shit, again?" before arriving moments later. This time, they searched the husband's phone and found all sorts of digital evidence that dipshits in murder shows who don't understand the internet never realize even exist. The cell phone tower is the most accomplished crime fighter of the 21st century. So, in the long run, the scheme failed, and most of the responsible parties were apprehended. That's great. What's less great is that this kind of thing happens all the goddamn time. And you won't be at all shocked to learn that it rarely ends with the victim standing over her attacker with a gun. Why does it happen so much? I love to chalk it up to the standard dudes are the worst, which really does work out for so many things. But there's a crazy woman in San Diego who can challenge that argument in this case. She posted rape wanted ads on Craigslist targeting a young woman after she was outbid on a house she wanted to buy. So it's more like sometimes people are the worst, unfortunately. And when you combine that with the fact that Craigslist gives you the ability to place an order for the most depraved things society has to offer and have them delivered directly to any door in the world, including your own, it amounts to a quick and easy recipe for disaster. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or of any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.